here with Mr. Joshua McLaughlin. Say that right?
You did.
Mr. McLaughlin?
I'm impressed.
So for those of you who remember Josh, those of you who have been following the community, whoa, I just broke something. Those of you who have been following the community experiment and now into Doppio gang, you guys will know Josh from like the first volume of the Doppio gang episodes.
It was unofficial back then.
It was unofficial.
Yeah.
It was just a joke back then. Now it's like a little bit more serious. We have merch. Shout out to merch. But boom, so you see that? So Josh is here because he's gonna take us through the double shot today, the Doppio. And it's very basic. But for those who have no clue what a Doppio is, can you take them through? This is like the essential. This is like Doppio gang. This is like the most. Yeah. This is like one of the most important episodes right now, man. This is
pressure's on.
Pressure's definitely on. So take it through us, sir. What is a Doppio?
So Doppio, the word Doppio is Italian for double. It's a double shot of espresso. Espresso is what I've gotten here. Espresso is just coffee. The only thing that separates coffee versus espresso is how it's extracted, how the water is actually extracted through the beans. And the way we do it is we have these lovely espresso machines, and of course espresso machines come in many different shapes, sizes, price tags, and different levels of efficiency. What we're using is a Slayer.
Wait. So how much is this one? Let's go with that.
So the Slayers, this particular one is the Slayer Espresso. I'm trying to remember the precise. It's $25,000. Yeah.
$25,000.
Yeah.
It's a car.
It's a car.
A nice car.
We're driving a car is what I always like to think. So what you got to do is you have to weigh the amount of espresso that goes in here. And different shops have different preferences. You can get as nerdy with this stuff as you want, and that's kind of the beauty of it. So what we've chosen to do at Coeur Coffee is we take 20 grams, we measure out 20 grams of ground coffee. Different people do, like the shop I used to work at before I was here, did 18 grams. So you can do 18, you can do 19, 20, some places do 21. I've seen some really, really crazy amounts that people will do to just try and accomplish different things. And we use this scale so that we're sure we have exactly 20.
So why does that matter in the grand scheme of the cup of coffee that I'm going to be drinking?
So in terms of the portion, portion matters. It kind of depends on the coffee a lot of the time. It also can kind of depend on what the baskets are kind of prepared for. So, because you can buy the little baskets in different sizes. You can get 20 gram baskets, 18 gram, and so on. So that's part of the reason why it matters, like how the machine is actually set up. But it also matters because depending on how much you play with that portion versus how much you actually get in the liquid, you'll get different tastes, different mouthfeels or consistencies, a different amount of viscosity. There's different ways to bring out the brightness or the richness in espresso, or a little bit of both. So it's really a matter, it comes down to preference ultimately. Where we got to is I ground our beans up and I have it on our scale. I've got 20 grams here. That's kind of flashing back and forth, 19.9 and 20. So I know we're pretty close.
Yeah.
So I've got about 20 grams, give or take. I'll just sprinkle some on here real quick. In our basket here. This obviously won't work to put in here, so we need to level it out, or what's known as distribute it. So what we do is we have this nifty distribution tool here. You can see how it's kind of like it's higher in the middle than it is on the sides.
Okay.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to press it down and turn it like this, and you can see how that would kind of just push the grinds around and kind of even them out nice and flat.
Okay.
The reason we use a tool for that here at this shop is because we like it to be consistent no matter who's doing it, because there's different techniques you can use. So what we do is we put our portafilter here on our tamper pad, and we put it in just like that, and you kind of just spin it around like a little screwdriver kind of.
Okay.
And when you take it off, you see how that's flat.
Right.
Because we've distributed it all the way around. Now what I need to do is tamp it, press it down a little bit, and we take our tamper here, These are pretty cool because you can adjust them so that you're not pushing too hard or too soft. There is a technique. There are many different techniques that can help you do this accurately. But these are nice because, like I said earlier, there's different baristas have different techniques, and this helps you get the same amount of the same pressure of tamping.
How much pressure do you have to use on it?
Not a lot. Different people will use different techniques to kind of give that. What I used to do when I had, there's another tamper that I have. Here's an example.
Okay. I think that's what more people see more often.
Yeah, most people are familiar with this kind of idea here. They come in many different shapes and sizes. This is the one that Slater gives you with the espresso machines. And what you can do is you can use these, and I can I'll do another shot in a second. I can actually show different techniques with this. But we use this most of the time because it doesn't matter, how hard or soft you're doing it. It tells you when to stop. So like right here, you notice on the side here how it stops right there. That's as far as it'll let me go.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't matter if I'm spinning around like this. You're not really supposed to do that, but if you spin around like that, that will actually, it doesn't really do anything else. It prevents you from screwing up a shot.
I see.
Basically. So you put your espresso, your portafilter here into the group head. And this particular machine is kind of nice because we have this middle setting here, what we call pre-infusion. And what that's going to do is really, really slowly drip water into the puck here. And this part is like a mirror, and it kind of helps me watch underneath. And you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see that. It's really slowly dripping out.
Okay, yeah.
And my timer starts to go.
So what are you looking for with the timer?
So the timer is going to tell me, first off, how long it's been going for, but also this particular scale gives me a weight also.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that I get a particular weight out of this espresso. I weighed 20 grams here, and the way our shop does it, and again, this is different depending on where you go.
Okay.
We like to get about 40 to 42 grams of liquid espresso out.
Gotcha.
And this tells me, this is my weight right here, and this is my timer right here.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to stop right about there at about 41 grams. Typically a window, 40 to 41. And there we have espresso.
All right.
So I'm really glad you asked that because there's a lot of misconception about what espresso should taste like, what it is. So espresso is going to taste different. It's like coffee, and it's like any other nice, like wine, for example, where you'll have a lot of subtle differences, but depending on what you're using and what you're buying and where you get it from, it might be really vast differences too.
Okay.
So coffee or espresso generally should be thick enough to where it's got a nice sort of caramelly, not thin like water in terms of mouthfeel and texture, but not so thick like it's like molasses. Kind of usually somewhere in the middle where it's definitely thicker and kind of it's this nice sort of semi-viscous consistency. And then texture-wise, or rather taste-wise, that really does depend on the bean all the way. You might have beans you can get tastes anywhere from higher on the citrus that'll be really fruity or lemony or orange-like in flavor, especially like on the back end, especially to something that might be more on the chocolatey side, really rich brown sugar kind of thing, and anywhere in between.
Does that? You have a question? Okay. Does that depend on the region that it comes from, or no?
It can, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of times, like with, for example, with Ethiopian coffees, you run into.
This is Ghana, but it's Africa, baby. Let's go. Let's go. I apologize. Keep
You're
going.
in it. You're in it.
Yeah, anyway,
So a lot of times with Ethiopian coffees, you get, at least what we've seen here, as long as I've been here, we've seen a lot of little like floral flavors, green tea. We have one that we call Startup, which is from the Yirgacheffe region.
Okay.
And a lot of Yirgacheffes taste very similar. They'll have floral, they'll have lemon notes. Some will have more slightly orangey kind of thing going on. And the reason that is because of the climate. It might be because of the soil in that area. So it's pretty easy to see like why a lot of times in a different country they'd be similar flavors, because a lot of times the soil is the same, the weather's the same, or at least similar.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, you know, folks who've been in the industry for a really long time generally will have a pretty good idea of what a coffee would, at least a vague idea anyway, of what coffee might taste like if they get it from Kenya. If they've had a lot of experience with Kenyan coffees, then they would know that, you know, what to expect flavor-wise.
Right.
At least on a spectrum.
Okay. So like when you give this to a customer, if it's cool with you, we're gonna taste these.
Yeah.
In just a second. So I want to see what this guy's face looks like.
Yeah.
When he tastes the double shot.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to presentation, like how do you guys present this?
So what we do at Alene Coffee is...
Shout out Coeur Coffee, thank you for letting us have it here.
What we're gonna do, get here real quick. We take a plate, and a lot of shops do this. This is the plate that we like to use, just a nice clean white plate. We'll take our espresso, and then what we do, and this is very traditional, is we'll take some sparkling water, or soda water, and we'll serve it with a side of that as well. And if we want to be real thorough, which I prefer to be, we just grab things to cut out.
No, we're definitely not cutting this out, bro. This is real life. This is North Idaho. Nobody cares.
We'll take a little spoon, and we'll give that as well. So that's our presentation for your drinks.
Cool. Can you?
For your espresso drink.
So why each one of those things? So I've heard different things. Let me ask you if this is right though.
Sure.
We're going to use Tyler C's knowledge real fast.
Let's
and see
do
if
it.
Works.
I'm excited to see
So
this.
I have heard that this spoon is because you're supposed to be able to take the spoon, break it in the middle, and then come back, and it's supposed to come back. If it's a bad shot, then it'll stay separate.
I've heard that too.
Okay.
And there's probably more than one right thing, I'm assuming.
Okay.
Because I have heard that. And you know, someone told me for my first time that you're able to just stir it so that you can get the crema in with the darker part of it.
Okay.
Crema being the brown kind of caramely part on top, sort of foamy. So a lot of times some people like to mix that too. So what you're saying, I've heard that as well.
Right.
Totally legitimate, and then also the stirring of it as well. And we can get into the whole bad shot, good shot argument too, if you want, because that's a whole debate in the coffee industry.
We'll get into that on the podcast. Make sure you keep an eye out for that one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, what about the water though?
So the water, in my opinion, is, aside from the espresso itself, is the most important addition to an espresso shot. The reason why is because it's a palate cleanser. The carbonation goes throughout your mouth after you taste the shot, and what it does is it completely voids any other flavors, so that each sip can be like it's your first one.
So is it like a seltzer water, or is it like a special kind? Or?
So it's just soda water, that's all, as opposed to seltzer water, which is, well, I guess about the same thing. I'm thinking tonic water, sorry.
Yeah.
So just seltzer water, you know, just a carbonated. We use our own little carbonator. We use a little soda stream. But different people will use like a name brand or whatever.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily, I mean, that's up to preference, honestly.
So when we get fancy,
cool.
we'll be sponsored by certain waters. So shout out to the water companies.
Yeah.
We're a Pellegrino fan. You're a Dasani man. I don't know. Okay.
Topo Chico.
What's up? Oh, David, you got anybody? No? Okay. We'll put Perrier on David. That way, if anybody wants to sponsor, we mention everybody.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to point out is notice the color. How it's caramely. It's got like a nice mix of sort of blonde and brown. That is a pretty good sign if you're looking at espresso that's been freshly pulled. So your spoons that you have, or if you want to stir it, it's totally an optional thing. You don't have to.
Okay.
But I like to stir it to kind of mix the crema a bit with the actual espresso.
All right, I'm gonna stir.
So yeah.
I'm gonna go into this. Is there any technique to stirring, or is it just go at it?
Not necessarily. You can totally just You know?
Right.
So yeah, you don't want to splashing. Shh. Yeah. Right. So what you should be tasting, it's gonna taste like coffee, obviously.
Right.
So go ahead and take a sip. Go for it. I know you're not.
I put my tongue on the spoon. I was like, just like all in one go. Or
No,
just take a good sip, enough to really get an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he doesn't really do coffee.
So the difference is I drink double shots of espresso, insert Doppio gang, every day. So I'm used to that initial that you get, and that's why I wanted him to taste it, because he's a real consumer.
So you know what? I'm glad you asked. There's a lot of misconception on that. A double shot of espresso, I can't remember milligram wise, but it actually has just a little bit less than about a 12-ounce cup of coffee. Believe it or not.
Yeah. Which is actually why I drink it, because too much coffee, or too much caffeine will put me to sleep.
Oh yeah?
But this is like just enough where it like gets you going, amps me up. Yeah. I'm good.
That's why I like these two. Granted, I've upgraded to 4 shots now instead of the double.
Wow.
But I taste it all day. I mean, it's you know, when you're trying to make sure it tastes good and everything. Can I try some of yours? You're probably pretty done.
I like it. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. I don't want to say chlorine, but that's what it reminds me of. With a little bit more flavor.
Gang gang.
Some chlorine with some more. I gotta get more creative with my flavor, like
addiction. So, if you would, can you break down like the average price for a Doppio?
Yeah.
I know it changes depending on where you go.
Depends on where you go. Here, ours are $3. If you get a shot, it's $3. That's pretty average, honestly. Yeah. $2.50, $3.50, anywhere in that window, depending on where you go, is a pretty safe bet.
Yeah.
I have seen $1.50 shots of espresso. Gotta admit, that made me a little nervous. It's because, you know, you got to keep in mind the cost of the coffee and everything, and that's why about $3 is about right. In terms of like just comparing what the cost was versus what the selling price.
Do you think normally does the average person come in and get a double shot of espresso?
No, at least not here. When I worked in Portland, that was a lot more common.
Okay.
Because there's just a ridiculous connection, just a really, really ingrained connection to coffee in that city. Here in Coeur d'Alene, we have a connection to coffee, but it's a much more eclectic taste. We have a lot of coffee huts that you can, like drive-through ones, and they're famous for doing a lot of flavor. Really
Shout out Jitters!
Jitters! Jitters!
That'd be nice.
So there's Jitters, and then there's you know, there's a lot of other places that do really similar things. Dutch Bros is really big on blended stuff, a lot of flavor, whole bunch of flavor. And the reason that's probably, so a double shot is probably a lot less common in Coeur d'Alene anyway, because there's a lot of familiarity with those flavors, and without the strength. Like a lot of people here are used to the idea that, you know, espresso, there's this, and it's a sad misconception, but it is a misconception that espresso is bitter, and you got to mask it with all these flavors and stuff like that. But the truth is, despite the chlorine comment, I'll let you pass on that one.
I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't like get it to wake up, because I love the feeling.
Well, it's
of, like,
quick, right?
Bake,
Well, and that's why in Italy it's commonplace. People don't sit down in Italy and drink coffee very much. In Italy, it's you drink it at the counter. You get a double shot like this. You maybe sip on it 3 or 4 times at the most, and it's gone, and you're on with your day. And that's kind of the idea of at least where it came from. You kind of get the idea. So here, you see a lot of lattes, a lot of Americanos, cappuccinos, things like that. A lot of times they're mixed with something. So we do get espresso. We've seen here at our shop, I'm really happy to say that we've started to see our just straight espresso orders go up quite a bit since we've been open, because as
gang. Anyways, I apologize.
That's
gang.
You can do that.
Gang. Where we at?
Anytime you want. Anytime you want.
It's good.
Anytime.
Gang.